Hey Tom, how are you?
Hey Ryan, great, thanks. How you doing?
Awesome. Good to see you across this internet. But what's kind of crazy is I've been talking to some other folks who aren't in Los Angeles, but here we are, probably 2 miles from each other, using a Google Hangout.
It's a small world.
Yeah, it absolutely is. Well, thanks for taking the time to talk to us about the future of event marketing. And I guess to start off, just always, Tom Spano, an event marketer. I think of a lot of the people I talk to, you're probably one of the more tenured event marketers. You've done it for a long time and been out there publicly, telling everybody about it and the importance of it. Twitter, Yahoo, Brightroll, and now over at Steelhouse. Just tell us a little bit about your background and I guess why event marketing or anything about, that we think we should know about Tom.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, I got my start sort of by accident, really. I was actually in sales and marketing for a furniture company back in 2000 or early mid 2000s, and when the housing bubble popped in 2007, we sort of had to all pivot because certainly when you lose your house, the last thing you want to do is buy furniture. So we were all looking for new things to do, and I had one of my best friends in the world works at Yahoo, and she saw an opportunity, a good fit for me to join their event marketing team there. And so I pivoted into the digital ad tech world, and never looked back. I've been doing it ever since. So it's been a wild ride.
Awesome. Yeah, and we've loved working with you over the past couple of years in various capacities, and sitting along watching your ride has been fun because it's been great. So anyway, all right, the way this works is we're going to talk about the future of event marketing. I guess the folks, the folks listening and that are going to be watching this are, interested in where we think the market is today, but more importantly, where it's going. I think event marketing, experiential marketing, digital, all these kind of things are starting to blend together. And that's why a lot of our conversations are with different people in the industry, whether they're on the event side or the experiential side, or the digital side. It's kind of all blending.
Yeah.
So I got a series of, 6 or 7 questions here for you, and we'll run through them and
Sure.
we'll see where the time takes us. Okay, so I guess touching on your background a little bit here. You've obviously worked at super large digital brands, Yahoo and Twitter and Brightroll. What has been the biggest shift that you've seen over the years from an event marketing lens?
Yeah, I would say by far the biggest shift is experiential, is moving away from tradition, moving away from very corporate stifled meetings and moving into more experiential stuff, more memorable things that people can really take home with them, versus just a run-of-the-mill kind of boring stuff.
Yeah, I was just talking to Lauren Austin over at MKG, and she gave a similar analogy, but she gave an analogy or a similar story. She said, meetings or events, used to be about putting up an event experience and making sure that the accent pillows on the couches were the brand color, and that's as far as it went. And certainly we have abilities now with technology and others to do more. Are there any specific things that come to mind on the technology side that you think have really just pushed it forward?
Well, certainly, the advent of social media and the way to incorporate social experiences and real-time video and photo experiences and things like that has really helped open up new ideas and ways to create things like, anybody can throw a cocktail party, right? We've been doing cocktail parties for years, but how do you create a cocktail party where people not only remember the experience, but take it home with them and tell other people about it and say, oh my God, that was the coolest thing I've ever been to. And by the way, I shared all these photos because it was so fun, it's all about taking it to the next level. You've got to be way more creative these days and really, really blow away your attendees.
Right. Everyone I've talked to has said the same thing. It's the word experience. Which is awesome because that's what it is. That's what an event is. It's about human beings coming together. It's not a thing. It's an experience.
Yep.
I almost thought halfway through my interviews whether we should switch the title of this series to the future of experience marketing. It's interesting, right? I mean, what would you? I mean, it's funny. Someday, should your title be experience marketing?
In fact, it was at Brightroll. I ran all their social media, but I was also their experiential manager. So it was all about sort of adding icing to the events team cake, right? So the events team would come up with this great idea, and they've got to do a traditional kind of trade show experience. How do we take that to the next level, right? So I'd come in and kind of think about ideas. Okay, well, if we're just going to do a cocktail party, how can we pick a location, and then talk about the walk-in? Like, what are we going to do when people come in the front door, right? We don't just want them walking in as if they're just going to a regular bar or club. They could do that anywhere, right? Like, this has to be an experience that they remember forever. So what are we going to do to change it up? And like, it's all about like see, hear, feel, think. That's what I'm always thinking about. Like, what are those 4 words, and what are people going to leave with talking about?
Yeah, that's great. Let's go even more back. Like, why events at all? Why do you think brands, companies, you're going to be hosting events at Steelhouse, event farms hosting? Why do we do this? Why events?
Yeah. Well, nothing ever will replace a face-to-face experience. Like, the value of meeting people face-to-face, clients and salespeople, really solidifying the bond, right? Like, creating a deeper relationship. You can't do that stuff over the phone. You can't do that stuff. I mean, you and I have known each other for years, but if we didn't, would our conversation be this smooth and comfortable? I don't think so. I think it would be much more static and robotic. But I'm very comfortable with you. I've known you for a long time, and I think that's because we've had a lot of face-to-face experiences, right, where we've been able to create real relationships. Though you don't get that stuff from a webinar, although there's those are important things that we need to do, but you don't get those experiences from phone calls. You have to have these events. This is really where the rubber meets the road, where people really create those definitive relationships.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I was talking to Derek Jang over at Google, and we were talking about a similar thing about why events, and it made me, whatever the thread we were on, it made me start realizing, like, how many times have you been to a happy hour or someone's birthday party or whatever it is, and you see a long lost friend, and you're like, oh my God, we got to do this more. I haven't seen you in years. We got to do this more.
Right.
But that event was the reason why you guys saw each other, right? So an event is the excuse. It's the hook. It's the the thing that brings us together. A
lot of these events, I'm gonna actually walk around the office and give you guys an experience while we're doing this interview. So I want
beautiful.
I'm gonna get out of the mold a little. So yeah, that's the cool thing is, like, sometimes our salespeople only see their clients once a year, and it's at these events, right? I mean, you can't build a relationship over the phone. It's got to be done face to face, like this. That we're social creatures, right? So events take advantage of those opportunities.
Is this your version of a virtual reality interview, Tom?
Yeah, you like this? So
I like this.
This is the Steelhouse headquarters. As you can see, like, and our events really follow the our events really follow the culture of the company, right? I mean, we're very open, transparent company. As you can see, there's no walls in here, right? And our events are the same way. Our events are like social experiences where everybody's just open and having fun, and conversations are flowing, and it's beautiful.
You know what I kind of feel like right now? I kind of feel like we're dancing. Like, I'm kind of like holding your hips and we're turning in circles. I love it. Okay, so on while we're on the humor topic, well, this isn't actually humor. It's more. I didn't know this about you. We did some research, and we found out that Tom Spano actually has an acting career.
Oh yeah. A hobby. I'll call it a hobby, not a career.
Okay, we'll give it a hobby. But I mean, The Hangover, Get Him to the Greek. What is this all about? You were in those films. How did that come about? What does this have to do with experiential or event marketing? What is going on?
I think. Well, so a little background on how I got into that. I was living in Las Vegas when I first started working for Yahoo, and a lot of movies are filmed in Vegas, and because I was hiring a lot of actors or brand ambassadors, people to help out in booths, things like that, I got to know the right people and ended up kind of like building an acting background into an actual paying career. So, a lot of movies are filmed in Vegas, and I used to get calls to come down and, sort of typecast a little bit as the high roller bachelor party attendee kind of guy, which is fine. I'll take a typecast's paycheck over nothing any day of the week. So,
Yeah.
Just a lot of fun, like super fun. Working with those films was incredible.
There must have been some embarrassing moment or some moment on there. What? Give us. You got to give us something.
Let's see. All right, when I was on the set of The Hangover, there was one scene in particular where all the guys are out front at Caesar's Palace pool eating breakfast the day after the big event, and they're trying to piece together the night, figure out what happened. Where Ed Helms pulls out a tooth and he puts it on the table, and I, as a background actor in that part, now my character kind of pops up throughout the whole film, but I'm supposed to walk by the table and look at the tooth and kind of give it like one of those, what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas kind of looks, and just keep walking. But I came in too close to Ed Helms' chair, and I like knocked the back of his chair, and it kind of like screeched across the floor of the stone pool, and just made this horrendous screeching sound. And Todd Phillips, the director, had to yell cut. We had to restart the whole thing, and he gave me one of these like, one more time, kid, and you're out of here. So I was like, oh god, it was fun though.
That's awesome. Okay, all right, enough joking and fun. All right, so now really on a complete opposite thread here, the business of event marketing, right? Do you use words like ROI when you're talking about event marketing?
Yes, absolutely. So ROI is, I think that, return on investment, I think that scares a lot of people in our industry, because they honestly don't know how to prove it, right? I mean, you're spending, the budgets are crazy. Let's just say $100,000 as a start on a trade show, booth, meetings, dinners, throwing a party, maybe, whatever. How do you prove that 100 grand was worth spending? And how do you prove how much money it brought in? You have to use technology for things like that. You have to integrate with your CRM platform. You have to use registration systems like yours. You have to figure out ways to correlate spend over the next 30, 60, 90, 120 days, however far out you want to look, to the people who showed up to your event. And if you can't attach a dollar value to them walking into your booth, or going to dinner, or even just sitting down with a salesperson and having a cocktail, then how do you know it's worth doing again? How do you know you spent, how maybe next year you should spend $200,000 on that event because it brought in $1 million. Double down, go heavy. Maybe it brought in nothing and you wasted $100,000. You have to know that stuff. Yeah, absolutely. And I think you brought up a good point of the challenge is how we get those answers. And technology, I think as event marketers, we're finally entering the time period in our careers where we finally can have tools that get us at least closer to answering those questions. You look 5 years ago. 5 years ago, we were saying, our biggest ROI was how many people attended the cocktail party. Yeah. Right? If we invited 300, did 300 show up? Like that was a great ROI back in the day, right? Yep. And then we got like how many likes our pictures on Facebook got. That was the next ROI. That was our next metric, Right. That doesn't prove whether you're getting business, right? I mean, you have to be able to show dollar value. So, there's plenty of software out there that does it. You just have to actually use it. Right. Absolutely. Okay. In the future, where do you think offlines play in the broader marketing strategy, right? So I think there are some things that are obvious to me, right? We're going to the trade show that matters to us most. That's where our clients are, or our potential clients. Those things are kind of, I just call those the nuts and bolts of just normal marketing exercise. But is there a conversation happening in your eyes at brands and companies that are saying, wait a minute, how are offline events, things that maybe not the traditional conference or anything like that, or the thing that Steelhouse wants to do that's unique and different, is that a conversation you think is going to be a part of a broader marketing strategy, or is it just they're the event guys, they're over there, and that's it? Well, I kind of touched on it earlier. Like there's always going to be a time and a place to do things like a webinar or a virtual event. We see value in that stuff. A lot of people tune into our webinars because they're convenient. You can save them for future use. You can tune in when you have the time. They're certainly a lot more affordable, right? Not everybody can fly to an event, buy a badge, get the hotel rooms, things like that. So there's a time and a place for all that stuff, and it's very valuable, and we utilize it here quite a bit. In fact, that does not fall into my parameters as a director of event marketing here. Other members of our marketing team handle the webinars. We don't consider them currently an aspect of event marketing, and we don't do virtual events currently either. But there's definitely talk about stuff like that. There's a future for that. Our company sees the value of face-to-face above and beyond all else. So that's where we really focus.
Well, it sounds like they got the right guy for the job. All right. So what's your biggest beef with how event marketing is looked at today? Across, not just Steelhouse or whatever, but just, across the industry.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think my biggest beef is that we tend to fall back on what's easy and what's, I think the most dangerous thing you could ever say is we've done it this way forever, so why change it? A lot of companies don't take risks. They don't see the value in really separating themselves from the pack by doing things that are, they may sound a little, scary and harebrained at first, but, think about the experience of your attendees and what they're going to walk away from. Do they want to go to the same old boring dinner, or do they want to go to a pop-up restaurant that you create in an alternative space that no one's ever thought of putting a restaurant in with a celebrity chef? Or do they want to sit at a chef's table and actually have, a celebrity chef work with them and talk to them about the ingredients and the recipes and, give them a hand-signed cookbook at the end of the night, and you take that home with you and getting pictures with the chefs and things like that. That's taking it beyond the next step, right? It's easy to book a dinner. Anybody can do that. But what's that next step that brings it to that big experience? And I think my beef is that a lot of times people just don't take it to the next level. They're comfortable and I think I'm fortunate that I've been with a bunch of companies that really harness the risk and really love to move into the next level and really wow their attendees. And so I keep stepping it up every time we come up with an idea. I'm like, okay, now how do we take that 8 and bring it to a 10 or to an 11? And sometimes I have to get talked off the ledge. Sometimes the lawyers say, not that, Spano, you got a little too far on that one, but it never hurts to ask, right?
That's exactly right.
So that's my beef.
I love it. Okay. What companies in your eyes, obviously beyond you guys, what companies do you think are doing this really well? What companies are doing event marketing smart, wise, taking it to 11? I
just actually went and experienced this pretty recently, but Converse is one of my favorite companies, and I think they really do some cool stuff. And I would advise anybody to go get an invite to one of their pop-up shops when they do a new line of sneakers. They do just out of the box thinking. They do some really cool stuff. Locations are crazy fun, hidden secret entrances to old warehouses that you feel like you might get jumped in an alley, but really it's all safe and beautiful, and they just made it look that way. And when you walk in the door, all of a sudden you're like, there's DJs and graffiti artists, and you're being sized for a brand new pair of shoes, and it's fantastic. It's so cool. It's like it's a wow factor. It's a shock factor. It's a something you didn't expect, right? And that's what makes you remember it forever.
Yeah,
that's what makes me talk. That's why I'm talking about it, right?
Right, exactly. I always, when I produce events, I always think about that question, right? When you wake up tomorrow, what are you going to talk about? And you're not going to say, "Oh, I ran into Tom Spano," unfortunately. That's the obvious. Of course I ran into Tom, right? That's not the thing that's going to be like, "Hey, you had never believed what I saw last night or what I experienced last night." That's the bar that I think as event marketers we always should be gut checking ourselves when we're doing it, right? Is it going to meet that test, Yeah.
And there's a value of social there too, right? I mean, you can't force people to use your hashtag. You can give them the hashtag and you can hope to God that they use it. And but the real barometer is, did they use it and how often? And are they still talking about it? How long are they talking about it? Are they still posting pictures on Instagram 3 days later from the event that you threw. That's the barometer. That's how you know you connected. That's how you know they will remember that event for a long time.
Yeah,
so,
awesome. All right, I got time for one more, and I think it's a really important one. It's somewhere on the ROI side, but like, you know, what role does data play in your job, right? We spend a lot of time, I think, talking about the fun, the exciting, how to get the experience out, but like, I guess the business of event marketing, right? How much of your job is actually trying to figure out, okay, let's just take the Converse example. All right, we're going to get these people in this cool environment. It's going to be this backdoor alley, and we wowed them. Absolutely, we won that. And so that in my eyes, that's step one. Or maybe it's even step 3 for a lot of people. We got that part. But then how do we extract the data? How much of that of your day are you thinking about, okay, now that they're here, how am I going to extract this data?
Yeah, I mean, it's the least favorite part of the job, but it is probably the most important, right? Because I have to justify budget. That's my number one goal, is to be able to spend more money on the fun things and less money on the unsuccessful. And so it's all about the data. How do I prove that this event was so successful that I can get more money for it? So although it's the least fun, it's the most important, because I want more money to spend. Right. And if I'm proving ROI, they're going to give me the money to spend, and we're going to do something even better next year. So so I use the proper technology that is that's in the market. You know, I mean, you guys obviously, you know, offer ways to connect to platforms that prove who's buying, right, and who isn't. You know, if John Smith comes to my event and leaves my event and then spends X amount of dollars from my event, and I can backtrack that meeting that he had at that event to the sales that he is now spending on our products, I know that we had ROI from that. Now multiply that by 200 attendees, right? I can now prove that the $100,000 I spent led to $1 million or more in sales. Oh, like, let's do it again. Let's double down. Let's make it bigger and better.
Right. Absolutely.
And so, yeah, so like we said before, like this stuff has to happen. There's no excuse not to be able to prove this anymore. In fact, I don't know a CMO in our industry that isn't begging for this information. And so event marketers have to find the right technologies, utilize those technologies, and prove their numbers. And you know, post-event metrics is one of the most important parts of the event. It's not just about the ROI piece, right? But you have all the social metrics. You have you know, like, that's data, right? Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, like, that's data. That's provable. You can, you know, your registration, right? I invited 1,000 people, 500 showed up. That's data. So you have to compile all that stuff and report back.
Right. Yeah, we got to justify like you said, justify the spend, and yeah, we're in this for business. We're not just in this for having, like you said, we're not just throwing cocktail parties and throw a cocktail party.
Yeah, it's all lead gen, right? I mean, if I can show somebody new that we touched, you know, the one thing that I continue to say to everybody I talk to in this industry is that marketing is not a cost center. Marketing is a income generator.
Absolutely.
We make money for the company. The problem is marketing can't prove that. It's very hard to prove that, right? So using these technologies that are out on the marketplace now, I can now show that, you know, through lead gen, through events, we're actually bringing money into the company. We're not spending money. I mean, and, you know, everybody thinks like, oh, events, you're just spending all our money on, you know, helicopter rides and, you know, jets and yachts and stuff. No, it's not like, I mean, we're spending that money to make more, but I have to show that.
Yep. Yeah. Awesome. And I think that's a great place to wrap up here, Tom, because that's, in my eyes, that's what we're shooting for from the, you know, if we're all the fun aside and kidding aside, you know, that's our challenge as event marketers is to continue to fuel our own industry with these real numbers and real data. So thank you so much for the time. I will leave you with an invite, because we're event people, and we're Event Farm's throwing an event that we're going to invite you to across town over here on the west side.
Wait. I can walk.
So you can walk. You can walk, and bring your bathing suit. You know, we'll be right here by the beach. Yeah. Awesome. So no, it'll be fun. August 21st, we'll have you over, and we'll see what data we can collect on you and retarget you.
Love it.
Yeah,
thanks, Ryan.
Awesome. Thanks for the time.
You got it.
All right. Bye.
Bye.